ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। मूकं करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दं माधवम्। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So we are continuing to study from the from Brahma-saṁhitā. So I will share my screen and we are going to switch between the slides and the database. So can someone please confirm if you can see my slides as well as the database?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. So last week we saw so far that the supreme abode of Lord Krishna is called Goloka Vrindavan, and in the manifested state in the material world it becomes as a Gokula, where Krishna enjoys his pastimes, and by his energy we can the marginal energies can also understand that. Then we learn about the surroundings of the Goloka Vrindavana. It is surrounded by Shvetadvipa, the four Chaturvyoha, and then four Vedas, four Purusharthas, and then the 10 directions are protected by the Dikpalas in the form of mantras and so on. Last week we learned about that he is the one who is there, the Supreme Lord, Evam Jyotī-rūpaḥ Deva. So he is the transcendental Lord, and is Sadananda Paratparaha. He is supreme among all the supreme, Paratparaha. And Atma Ramasya, and he is engaged in always enjoyment of in the transcendental realm. And Tasyasti Prakritya na Sangama, and of his he does not have any direct contact with the Prakriti or the material energy. And then in the next verse we learned last week that even though he doesn't have direct contact with the material energy or Māyā-devi, but he still Māyā aramamanasya. So he doesn't even aramamana, means does not consort with Māyā directly, but na viyogastaya saha. But he is never completely separated also from Māyā. Then how he is interacting with Māyā? Through Ramādevī, or through his internal potency, the spiritual potency. So Atmana, so his own potency, Ramaya Reme. So his own potency, internal potency, through Ramādevī, he interacts with the Māyā-devi. So Ramādevī is actually the controller of Māyā-devi or the Prakriti. And Tyaktva Kalam Sisrakshaya, with the desire to create, he interacts with her through the energy of time, Kalam. So we'll continue with the next verse today. So further it says then, Niyati. Niyati means the one who is controlling or regulating. So this is referring to Ramādevī. Niyati sa Ramādevī, tat-priyā tad-vaśaṁ tadā. tal-liṅgaṁ bhagavān śambhur jyotī-rūpaḥ sanātanaḥ. Ya yoniḥ sāparā śaktiḥ kāmo bījaṁ mahad dhareḥ. So niyati, Ramādevī is called niyati, who is the controller, who is actually controlling the Māyā-devi or the inferior material potency of the Lord. And she is very dear to him, tat-priyā, tad-vaśaṁ, and she is always in control of him also. Even the spiritual potency is directly under control of the Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa. And tadā, then tal-liṅgaṁ bhagavān śambhur, it manifested tal-liṅgaṁ, the masculine symbol, lingam, which is called as bhagavān Śambhu, is the Shiva. That is the masculine nature that is required, that is created for the material creation. And jyotī-rūpaḥ sanātanaḥ, which is also transcendental and sanātana, eternal. But ya yoni sāparā śaktiḥ, and in the same manner, sāparā śaktiḥ, apara means the inferior energy or the non-absolute nature, potency, that is the material energy, takes the ya yoni, the feminine symbol or feminine mundane energy for creation, and which is the kāmo bījaṁ, which is the seed of the desire, the desire that mahad. Mahad means which is the perverted reflection or perverted cognition, understanding of Supreme Lord Hari. Now, in this we learn, let's read the translation first and then we can discuss. The secondary process of association with Māyā is described here. So how Lord indirectly associate with Māyā or the material prakriti, that is described here. So Ramādevī, which we understood that is the internal potency or the spiritual potency of the Lord, Ramādevī, the spiritual or chit potency, beloved consort of the Supreme Lord, is regulatrix or the controller or regulator of all the entities. The divine plenary portion of Kṛṣṇa creates the mundane world. So which is Mahavishnu, which creates the mundane world through his body. Just by glancing over to the on the material energy, it creates the mundane creation. At creation, there appears a divine halo of nature of his own subjective portion or svāṁśa. This halo is divine Śambhu, or the masculine symbol or manifested emblem of the Supreme Lord. This halo is the dim twilight reflection of the supreme eternal effulgence. So this is in between the material living entities and the Supreme Lord. So Śambhu Tattva or Shiva Tattva is created, which is called here as dim twilight reflection. So the Supreme Lord is full energetic or full light, and ignorance is darkness, and he is in between with the twilight reflection of the supreme effulgence. The masculine symbol is subjective portion of the divinity of two functions as progenitor of the mundane world, and is also subject to the supreme regulatrix, that is niyatiḥ or the Ramādevī. So the masculine nature that is created, that is also subject, it is under control of the spiritual energy of the Lord or the Ramādevī. The cognate conceiving potency in regard to mundane creation makes her appearance out of the supreme regulatrix. She is Māyā, the limited non-absolute or apara potency, the symbol of mundane feminine productivity. So the Māyā-devi, which works as the mundane feminine productivity, is also, which is created from the spiritual energy or Ramādevī. And the intercourse of these two brings forth the faculty of perverted cognition, the reflection of the seed of procreative desire of the Supreme Lord. So the original creative potency is in the spiritual world, and as we learned earlier that the Viraja river is separating the spiritual world and the material world, which the spiritual world is of three quadrantal or tripada shakti, and the material world is ekapada shakti or one quadrantal or one quarter. And the spiritual world, when is reflected in the material, in the Viraja, that is the reflection. So the material world is nothing but the reflection of that spiritual world. And the same way, the superior creative potency also reflected in the inferior potency as the reflection of the seed of the procreative desire of the Supreme Lord. Let's go through the purport also quickly. And the purport is much detail, and then we can go to the slides. So Sankarshan, Lord's expansion, possessed of creative desire, is subjective to the portion of Kṛṣṇa, taking the initiative of bringing forth the birth of material world. Now, he is lying in the causal ocean as the primal Purusha Avatara. He is the first Purusha Avatara as Mahavishnu, or also called as Karanodakashayi Vishnu. And he cast his glance towards Māyā, which is the limited potency or the inferior energy of the Lord. And such glance is the efficient cause of mundane creation. Now here the creation of Śambhu is mentioned, and it is also mentioned in further few verses here. Śambhu is the symbol of masculine mundane procreation and is the dim halo of this reflected effulgence. So this reflected effulgence is called Śambhu, and it is said in Vishnu Purana that this Śambhu is actually a very small fraction of energy of the Supreme Lord. It is called millionth of portion of the Supreme Lord's energy. The first phase of the appearance of mundane desire created by Mahavishnu is called seminal principle of mahad, or the perverted cognitive faculty. It is this which is identical with the mental principle ripe for procreative activity. The procreative activity here, material world, is created through that conception of masculine and feminine energy, which is Māyā and the Śambhu. So that conception, the conception of underlying is that it is the will of the Purusha who creates by using the efficient and material principles. So efficient principle is the material nature, and the material principle is the masculine part, or the Śambhu or Shiva Tattva. So efficiency is Māyā, or the productive feminine organ. The material principle is Śambhu, or the procreative masculine organ, and the Mahavishnu is the Purusha, who is the cause of creating of all these two, who is the dominating divine person wielding the will. He is the cause, or he is the main principle behind even creating this masculine and feminine organs are to be for the creation. Now, and then pradhana, or the substantive principle in the shape of mundane entities, is the material principle, which is the cause of creation of the embodied source, or the bodies of the living entities who enter in this procreation. The nature embodying the accompanying principle or adhar is Māyā. So Māyā is the one, as Kṛṣṇa also says, that he creates, he is the one who injects the seed into Māyā, and then the Māyā is the one who gives the body. Or in the same manner, when we see in this material world, that the female gives the body for the living entity, and the male semen particle is the main principle that causes the creation of that body. The principle of embodied will bringing about the intercourse of the two is the dominating divine person, Purusha, subjective to portion of Kṛṣṇa, the manifester of the mundane world. All these three are creators. So Māyā, Purusha Avatara, and Śambhu, all these three are the creators, and the seed of amorous creative desire is in Goloka. So the original seed of creation, the creative potency, is in Goloka, and that reflected here in the mundane world, that creates the desire for creation, that is in the form of lust, is the embodiment of the pure cognition. So the pure original creation embodiment is in the Goloka, or in the spiritual world, and that reflected is the mundane creation is in the material world. The seed of the sex desire to be found in this mundane world is that of Kali, or etc. And that is the material Durga, or the material Māyā Shakti, who is the shadow of the divine potency. So it is the shadow or the reflection of the divine potency. So just like Ramādevī is the original potency and Māyā Devi is the reflection of that, And just like shadow is always dependent or controlled by the original object or of which the shadow is, in the same manner, Māyā-Devi or the inferior potency is always under control of Ramādevī or the superior potency. The former means the spiritual energy, although is the prototype of the latter, is located very far from it, is in the spiritual world. The seed of mundane sex desire is perverted reflection in this mundane world of the seed of the original creative desire. The process of appearance of Śambhu is recorded in the 10th and 15th shlokas, and it is also mentioned actually in the 45th shloka, where the Supreme Lord is compared to milk and Śambhu is compared to yogurt, which is created from it. Now let's go to the slides point here. Let me see. So last week in the 7th shloka, we saw that how the creation happens because of the Lord's glance over the Māyā-Devi, but that glance is not happening directly. So if you see in the top picture here, very beautifully shown here, that the Lord's glance goes through the Ramādevī, which is in between, and then the Māyā-Devi here. So Ramādevī is the one who takes that glance with her to Māyā-Devi. It is not directly. So the Supreme Lord never comes in direct contact with the Māyā-Devi, and Māyā-Devi never comes in front of the Supreme Lord, that we saw in Bhagavatam also. So who is that Ramādevī then? So Ramādevī is described in several places as constant or eternal companion of the Supreme Lord. And she is always, wherever Lord is, she is always present there. And she is the one who is accompanying and serving him all the time. And so the couple of places where I saw is Apayini Bhagavati Shri Sakshad Atmano Hare. So that goddess of fortune is called Shri, who never leaves the Lord. She is Sakshad Atmano Hare. She's as good as Lord Hari is, and she never leaves him. She's never separated from him. Appears with him in this world as the representation of his internal potency. So whenever Lord appears here, she also appears with him as his internal potency. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, when Kṛṣṇa says that he appears here, he says that Sambhavami Atma Māyāya. He always appears in this mundane world also with his or by his internal potency. And in Vishnu Puran also it is mentioned that Nityaiva sa Jagannmata, so she is the original mother of every living entity. Vishnur Shri Anapayini Yatha Sarvagato Vishnu, just like Vishnu is everywhere, he is all pervading. Tathaiveyam Dvijottama, O Dvijottama, O great Brahmanas, in the same manner, Ramādevī is also everywhere along with Vishnu. She's also all pervading. So she is the eternal mother of the universe, the goddess of fortune of Lord Vishnu, and she is never separated from him. In the same way Lord Vishnu is present everywhere, so is she also. So this is the description of Ramādevī, which is the internal spiritual potency of the Lord. And then it, based on certain descriptions in the verse what we read from Brahma-saṁhitā, one may say that is the material creation cause of Shiva and Durga or Shiva and Shakti then, or is it creation of the Supreme Lord? So in the commentary by Jiva Goswami, he gives some descriptions here. So he mentions that the universal form is manifested from Lord Vishnu itself, and so also Shiva and Durga. So Shiva and Durga are also actually indirectly manifested from Lord Kṛṣṇa or Supreme Lord Vishnu. And that's where in the verse, Brahma-saṁhitā verse, they are referred as tal-liṅgaṁ and also yoniḥ. So his lingam or his form is described. And this potency of material world is manifested from part of millionth part of Vishnu. So this potency of material world, that is Śambhu, that is the very minute part of Lord Vishnu is there is created from. And that small part of Vishnu is the spiritual effulgence is manifested as linga is described here. The linga is the Śambhu. So that Śambhu is a very minute small part of Vishnu that is described in the Vishnu Purana. And the feminine nature or the Prakriti is, or it is also unmanifested Māyā. It receives that seed from the that part or Śambhu. And then the word apara indicated here, the yoni is the potency of pradhana. So that pradhana is the what gets the seed from there. And the desire kāmo that is reflected in the material world, the inferior mode of kāmo or in the form of sex desire, that is the cause of creation that is mentioned here. Of the partial expansion of Lord Hari, and for the purpose of Lord Hari, purpose of creation, the Lord desires to glance. When the Lord glances over the material nature, that's where the impregnation of material nature happens. So these are the descriptions from the commentary by Jiva Goswami. And let's describe the next verse, which is in continuation of this, where it says, Linga yoni atmika jata ima maheshwari praja. So the offspring, the praja, are creation, the offsprings of the consort of the great Lord Maheshwara of this mundane world are of the nature of embodiment of the mundane masculine and feminine generative organs. So the body is created by the material nature, and the seed is given by the masculine nature, or by the Supreme Lord through the masculine nature. And here in the purport, it is described about the whole creation, actually, both the spiritual as well as the material creation is of the creation of the Supreme Lord. As Kṛṣṇa says, Aham sarvasya prabho matta sarvam pravartate. But of these, the tri-quadrantal or the first tripada shakti or tripada vibhuti, which is the spiritual energy, is called as non-perishing, unlamenting, non-apprehending, which is called as Vaikuntha and Goloka. So Vaikuntha, because it is unlamenting, where there is no anxiety, which never perishes, avyaya, and which is non-apprehending, which is beyond our conception or beyond understanding. That is the Tripada Shakti. And in the Ekapada Shakti, in the material world, Māyā, in which Māyā, the devas, the demigods, mains, and other living entities, etc., all these together, mundane worlds, are the great majestics of the limited potency. So they are in the limited potency of the material creation. And all these these embodiments of the masculine and feminine organs of the generation of this efficient and material cause. So that is the masculine and feminine nature that is created. They are created through that. Now, he also explains further that all this information has been accumulated by the agency of science in this world, and this nature of sexual co-union. So even the scientists in this material world, they mention that whole thing is created by the co-union of male and females in this material world. So even though that is true, and these words are used in these verses, it is mentioned here that the feature of the spatial significance is, although such expressions as these expressions are used as generative orgasm of male and female, are indecorous to scientific literature. They are incomplete for this, because they are these are used only for our understanding, but these are the indecorum of this male entity is of the external custom of society. Because it is the indecorum or the failure of us, the mundane people, to understand how the creation happens, that's why these terms are used so that it is external custom of the society. Just like Kṛṣṇa gives examples in the Vibhuti Yoga that Arjuna, I am of the certain things, that I am the Himalaya of the mountains, or I am of the senses, I am the mind. Or these examples he gives to Arjuna so that it is we can understand through examples the potency of that. In the same manner, the creation is mentioned through this generative principle so that the science, material science can understand. We can understand this in that way. But the science, and especially the highest science, cannot destroy the entity of the difference of the social custom. So it cannot be subordinate to the social custom here. It is beyond our understanding. The creation is beyond our understanding, and these examples or these words are used only for our understanding. And that's what it is said here, that by the use of all these words, the masculine energy and predominating word, the feminine energy and the predominated, are to be understood. These words are used only for our understanding, because that's what a mundane person like us can understand. And then, so here again, the creation is the material world, all entities of creation of this male and female, these material bodies. And even though, because we try to understand things through our experience, the words such as mundane, masculine, and feminine generative organs are used according to the purport. But original creator, even though these are indirectly creators, the original creator is Kṛṣṇa himself, as he mentions in the 14th chapter, 3rd and 4th verse, that he is the seed-giving father of all the living entities. That what he says, that mama yonir mahad brahma tasmin garbham dadamyaham sambhavam sarvabhutanam tato bhutani bharatah. The total material substance called Brahman, or also called mahad, is the source of birth, and that he impregnates, making possible the birth of living beings. And for all the living entities, further he says, sarva yonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavantiya tasam brahma mahad yonir aham bija pradapita. That it should be understood that all species of life that are created in this material world are made possible by birth in this material nature, and he is the original seed-giving father. So this is also explained by Maitreya Muni when he is explaining the creation to Vidura, and we'll read just the translation of these 3 verses, where Maitreya Muni is explaining the creation, how the creation happens and how the living entities appear in this material world. He mentions to Vidura that the Lord, the undisputed proprietor of everything, was the only seer. The cosmic manifestation was not present at that time, and he felt imperfect without the plenary and separated parts and parcels. The material energy was dormant at that time, whereas the internal potential was manifested. And then the Lord, as is the seer, the external energy which is seen works as both the cause and effect of the cosmic manifestation. And the external energy is known as Māyā, or illusion, and through her agency only the entire material manifestation is made possible. And here finally he says that the supreme being in his feature, the transcendental Purusha incarnation, which is the Lord's plenary expansion, impregnates the material nature of 3 modes, that is the Māyā Devi. And thus, by influence of eternal time, the living entities appear. And that's what in the in the verse that we read from the Brahma-saṁhitā, it says how these living entities appear. So the offsprings of the consort. So that's how originally actually they appear by the Lord's potency. So I'll stop there. It is 9:30 already. Okay. Is Ramādevī same as Lakshmi? Yes. So Ramādevī is same as Lakshmi.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So nicely explained.
And please forgive my ignorance, anything. It is, I read few times to understand this, but it is, I wouldn't claim that I understand everything. Whatever my realizations are, I'm just sharing that with you.
Guruji, I just feel that we are so fortunate that we are able to even have this understanding because of all the devotees. Otherwise, it's very difficult to read by ourselves and even understand.
Mhm.
So, thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. And again, I think I have said this and I'll say this again. Thank you so much, Shankaran Prabhuji, for giving me this opportunity to share, even though I am least qualified to even mention anything about this, but that gives me an opportunity to study and share whatever my understanding is.
Yeah, thank you very much, bro.
Thank you very much.
The fact that you are taking out time and preparing for presenting this subject matter, it's actually, we all are indebted to you.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
The Brahma-saṁhitā itself, when I read these verses in translation and purport, so hard to understand, and you make it very easy for us with the pictures and whatever realization you have, but you are letting us know what is mentioned in Brahma-saṁhitā. So we are very grateful to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yeah, Prabhu, I agree with everyone here. When I was reading also Brahma-saṁhitā, it was so difficult. I had to have a dictionary, but I think you're making it very easy with all the presentation with the slides. It's really, with the picturization, I think that helps a lot. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Thank you so much, Mataji. And actually, these pictures, there were few pictures that are drawn from the descriptions of Brahma-saṁhitā by some devotees, and they are amazing. They cover all the details such nicely in those representation of the whole creation. And when I saw this, the idea of him putting, when the Mahavishnu is glancing over Māyā-Devi, putting Ramādevī, how she is the one who is also in between, and the Lord doesn't directly interact with it. I saw so much details that have gone through the devotees' minds when they created these images. That's amazing. We are all indebted to them.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing it, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mataji. So if there are no more reflections, we'll stop here today. Thank you so much. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Vanchakalpātarubhyāśච patitānaṁ pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaः.